Hello and welcome to another Force 13 live update with myself, Nathan Foy, and several other people who have joined me this evening, this afternoon, wherever we are around the world. We have people from all across the world talking about the current storm situation, and we have several storms active at this time as well, which we'll go into very shortly. First of all, we have Michael, who is here this evening.
Sup?
Yeah, what's up? We also have Jason with his nice logo, which we need to borrow. We also have Devon as well. He, I suppose, is most interested in Tropical Storm Anna, which may affect his part of the woods very soon. We also have Jean joining us from Mauritius. Obviously, his season's pretty much finished down there, so it's nice that he is taking part in today's show. And we also have Andrew, who will be screen sharing as well. Ooh, look at that. And he's joining us from the Pacific Northwest, which never really get any hurricanes, but there you go. So where shall we start? Well, Typhoon Noul, Philippine name Dodong, is about to make landfall in the next 12 hours or so, and is a rather strong storm. It's been intensifying. It's a Category 4 on the Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale. It's a really serious situation, I suppose, because it is intensifying, and it will probably make landfall at around that intensity in the next 12 hours or so. So that's a rather serious situation. Wind speed is 130 miles per hour. Air pressure, therefore, is around 937 millibars, and Signal 3 warnings in effect for parts of the Philippines. Let's take a look at my screen for a moment here. Signal 3 warnings in effect for, all these areas. Cagayan, Isabela, and Northern Aurora. That's probably going to be the landfall area. The storm will probably make landfall, I would expect, in Isabela province, maybe a bit further north as well, perhaps. But typhoon conditions all round, quite possible for those areas. Signal 2 warnings in effect for a much larger area, and Signal 1 warnings, an even larger area than that. I just scrolled through them rather quickly because I can also show you one of my Force 13 graphics, which will show you presented on a map. You can see them all there. That's Category 3. We'll change that to Cat 4 whenever I'm ready. But it is a Category 4 storm. Signal 3 warnings marked in red for those areas towards the northeast. Signal 2 further inland and further south as well, and Signal 1 warnings for the northwestern part of the Philippines and beyond as well, in the south of Luzon too.
Nathan?
Yeah, Mike.
So yeah, would you like me to do a bit of forecasting as well?
Well, what do you think about Noul right now?
Well, it's not intensified as fast as I would have liked it to.
Liked it to?
Because it was forecasted to intensify quite quickly.
Yeah, Michael just likes to see really strong storms. It's obviously the worst case scenario for those in the Philippines, where we could possibly be seeing very strong typhoon conditions. There is one saving grace about it, that the area in the eastern part of the Philippines that the landfall area will likely be is a rather sparsely populated area, and it does have a history of very strong typhoons. I don't think we need to look much further than Typhoon Meggy in 2010, which affected a similar area as a Category 5 storm.
What's currently the wind speeds in miles an hour at the moment for Noul? Because I can't remember.
Yeah, I just said that whilst you were away, but I'll reiterate, 130 miles per hour. Now, in kilometers per hour, that's around 205, 210, maybe more than that, actually. Around 200, I think. And gusts, of course, are much higher, approaching Category 5 intensity, if not exceeding that.
But apparently, only on the forecast at the moment, it's expected to peak in the next 12 hours, which is
possible landfall. It is having wind gusts of Category 5 intensity, actually, gusting to 160 miles per hour, so very strong.
Yeah, it's only, I think so, only forecasted to be I think it's a 140 mile per hour Category 4 storm.
Yeah, here's the JTWC map, where you can see what the track map shows on JTWC, and actually it might be just about recurving away from the Philippines before a landfall there. Couldn't confirm that, but it may not quite make landfall, but it is still close enough to cause some significant problems, that's for sure.
Well, the storm's got a fairly defined eye as well, hasn't it?
Well, yeah, we've just been looking at it on the satellite imagery. You can see on Devon's screen there, and also on Andrew's screen as well, where the storm is.
The storm's eye is quite small as well, which is quite worrying.
Yes, potentially. And you can see that the whole area around the eye wall there, very strong, pretty much all the way around the storm. Probably, yeah, stronger in the south side. So those who are on the south side of the potential landfall area, look at that picture on Jason's screen there.
They're also looking at the northeastern part of the storm. In the last few frames of that, it does look as though that could be starting to lose some of its convection there, but it could just be starting to organise itself a little bit more.
Before we go any further with Noul, obviously there are warnings in effect elsewhere as well. Anna is our Atlantic storm. The tropical storm warnings in effect from South Pompey River, South Carolina, to Cape Lookout, North Carolina. The tropical storm watch is further south, extending as far as Edisto Beach in South Carolina.
Yeah, they believe that's peaked now, hasn't it?
Quite probably. I mean, water temperatures are decreasing, so I would expect the storm will probably begin to weaken because wind shear is increasing as well. So
yeah,
I think it's on its way down.
They're also looking at not Anna, new storm behind that, Dolphin. They're expecting that to become a typhoon, aren't they?
Now that's in the Western Pacific indeed. Dolphin is the newest storm to form in the Western Pacific. It was 7W and has now been named Dolphin by the Japanese Meteorological Agency not so long ago. Wind speeds 45 miles per hour, I believe, near the Micronesian islands, and I wonder actually whether there are warnings in effect there. We've got carried away with Noul and Anna. I might have missed out whether there are warnings in Micronesia, but it's best to find out now rather than the end of the show. Let's have a look. Yes, tropical storm warnings are in effect for Cosray. And what else do we have here? Tropical storm warning in effect for Pingilap and Mokil in Pohnpei State. And typhoon watch in effect for Pohnpei and Pakin in Pohnpei State. And tropical storm watch in effect for Sapuafik, I think.
Yeah. Also, just looking at going back to Anna, Nathan.
Yeah, there are lots of storms to cover. It's a bit confusing.
Yeah. So go with Anna first. Just looking at the watches and warnings in effect. They have tropical storm watch in effect from Edisto Beach, South Carolina, to South Santee River in South Carolina, and also they've also got tropical storm warning in effect from the South Santee River, South Carolina, to Cape Lookout in North Carolina.
All right, let me read out some of your comments. Jasper Hamlin says, "Can hurricanes collide?" Michael, would you like to respond to that one?
Well, not really. If you search up the Fujiwara effect, one of three things can happen, which I believe the first one is they can interact with each other. I think another one is they can repel each other. And also, I think the other one wasn't one can weaken the other.
Well, what can happen is that one storm approaches the other storm, and as you said quite rightly, one of three things can happen. They can, if they can tear each other apart, I suppose, but they can also send each other going in different directions than what they would have done if they're actually separate. And the third one is if they're very weak. Typically, if they're very weak, they can merge. And that's happened on a few instances in the past.
Has it ever happened that quite an intense storm has collided with the other and merged?
No, not that I know of. Probably not above hurricane intensity, I would say, quite easily. Stephen P. Shaw says JTWC says the wave heights for Noul are 44 feet ? What times are high tide in northern Luzon tonight or tomorrow morning? I'm not sure if any of our researchers
I'll search that up.
Look that up for us and find out. In the meantime, let's talk about Which one should we talk about? Well, you can see
Is it
Jason's
Cebu?
screen. Sorry?
Is it Cebu?
No, Cebu's further south. Jason's looking at the map there actually now. You can see that huge area of dry air near
Tacloban?
near Guam and the Mariana Islands. What was that, Mike?
Tacloban? That work?
But further north than that. Let me find a location. Phones now in the background as well. Let me find a location and see what thingamajig.
Yeah, my phone went off. It's later, isn't it? Oh.
No, it's further north than that. I'm trying to think because there aren't many very popular places, populated places on the coast. There's a place called Bala.
I'll search. I'll look at somewhere.
Bala province, places around there.
I'll look at the Philippines. See where. Santa Ana. I'll try that.
Jean is also showing us what the models say about Typhoon Noul. You can see them there. The nav gem takes the storm over the Philippines. I think you should keep it zoomed out there, Jean, just for a moment. You can see how the nav gem there, as I said, over the Philippines. That's probably the worst case scenario, but you can now see the other two models keeping it out at sea just that little bit more and just grazing the coast of Luzon and then curving towards the northeast and then affecting the Japanese Ryukyu Islands, as all the models are predicting. Possibly as a typhoon by the time it reaches Okinawa. It may still be a typhoon. GFS is possibly the most optimistic.
Here we go, Nathan. Got it.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, so the wind speed, so I'm guessing 70 miles an hour, they're expecting it tomorrow. This is Santa Ana, just that's like the quite northern part of I think it's Luzon, isn't it?
Right.
It's pretty much the northeast corner of the northernmost island of the Philippines.
All right then. Go on, tell us.
They are expecting high tide at 10:34 p.m. on Sunday.
Sunday night then.
Yeah, 10:30. Well, there's the two high tide times tomorrow. There are 9:25 a.m. They're expecting a 1.21 meter high tide, but I think that's normal high tide. And also 1.03 meters on high tide at 10:34 p.m. On Sunday.
Oh, now here's a look at Anna. You can see what the intensity guidance is saying on John's screen there. And as you can see, most of the models are predicting it will weaken and then quite possibly re-intensify. Some of them are saying re-intensification. I'm expecting that would be when it moves off the coast of Virginia and the Delmarva Peninsula. And by that point, it may not be tropical by then. So obviously it's going to weaken by the time it makes landfall, and it looks like it will weaken before then as well. Devon's talking to me on text saying flash flood warnings north of Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. Any of you in that area? Some information on that. But there's Typhoon Noul, a very strong storm, Category 4 on the Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale, and it could make landfall in the Philippines at that intensity. 130 miles per hour, that's around 205 kilometers per hour. Any questions on any of the storms that we have active at this time, please let me know, and I'll respond. You can see Andrew's screen there. Is that showing both? Yes, it is. You can see Noul towards the left-hand side there, and the new storm Dolphin, which has formed towards the right there. It's a bit off towards. It's a bit skewed, the map, because it's not facing north. But you can see the two storms well enough on that screen there, and you can also see that the track for Dolphin, as it has been hinting for some time, moving not too far away from Guam. So people in Guam should be watching out for this storm, as well as the islands of Micronesia, because they'll have the worst conditions quite possibly. Michael?
What? Oh, sorry. Yeah. Just if you guys got any questions, send them in on the.
There are. Michael. Yanel says, what's the difference between subtropical and tropical storm? Now, Anna was subtropical and it has turned tropical. Would you like to tell us about that?
Oh, that's a hard one. That is actually a hard one.
Come on,
Um,
Mike.
yeah. Well, you got some. Well, I can tell you one thing about it is there's sort of the differences. The sort of closed circulation. 'Cause sometimes subtropical storms do have some quite open circulation in the system.
Quite
Um,
often, the tropical storms don't have as much rainfall and thunderstorms and that sort of activity. And also, they're sort of like
If you would like me to,
atmosphere.
yeah, I've been here from watching, but if you would like me to go over it again, a subtropical system is basically a hybrid between a tropical and an extratropical cyclone. Usually,
Yeah, I just
in
coming
a
on to that.
subtropical cyclone, it has to lose its frontal characteristics in order to be designated as subtropical. But for a subtropical storm to transition into a tropical, it needs to develop a warm core and typically thunderstorms all the way around the center. And also, subtropical systems usually have a very wide wind field, while rather tropical systems also have a smaller wind field. And subtropical systems, since they're hybrids, they can exist
Yes,
at
yes.
colder sea surface temperatures at like 23 to 25 degrees centigrade waters, which is
And
what it's in right now.
extratropical cyclones, don't they have the widest wind fields of all of them?
Yes.
Yes. And
Look at Sandy.
well, yes, indeed. Sandy turned post-tropical just before making landfall in New Jersey in 2012. But here's the track map for Anna, and you can see also that it's expected to remain a tropical storm by the time it moves into North Carolina as well, as per the NHC at least, and still be a depression just before it leaves the state and enters Virginia, and then possibly flipping the southern tip of Maryland on the Delmarva Peninsula there, and then continuing off towards the northeast towards New England.
My main concern with Anna is that if it makes landfall towards the South Santee River area, if it cuts left for whatever reason, there's a possibility that it could just end up stalling there for about 24 hours, which would be not good news for the area.
Yeah, indeed. Are there already flooding concerns in that area, Devin? Do you know?
I'm not 100% sure. They don't have any, from what I'm seeing right now, they don't have any flood watches up. So I wouldn't say that there's any ongoing flooding concerns right now outside of the center of the from the center of the United States.
Obviously, if it hangs around too long, that may change. Let's reiterate what's going on around the world. What you're looking at right now is Jason's screen, and that's showing Typhoon Noul. It's a Category 4 storm on the Saffir-Simpson hurricane scale. Further east, I don't know whether Jason could zoom out and show us the whole West Pacific actually, so we can see Dolphin as well, because that's a new tropical storm that's active and is a 45 miles per hour now, I think. You can also see Andrew's screen there showing Anna, which is also rather interesting. Just saw that in the corner of my eye. Oh yes, Jason show. Is that Dolphin? It must be. And you can see that appears to be developing. It's been a slow developer, I suppose, because it's been around for some time already. It spent a whole day before being named by the Japanese Meteorological Agency as Dolphin, and is now expected to move towards the northwest and possibly affect the areas around Micronesia. And you can see the latest track map here on the JTWC. Now, it was initially slowly moving towards the east, and is now curved towards the north, and now starting to get a westward element in that movement as well. So northwestwards, passing between those areas, looking to be passing between Pohnpei and Ujilang, and then moving towards the west-northwest, And as you can see, that last stop there on the left-hand side near Guam, the closest one to Guam, 122 nautical miles away from Guam at that point. And it's expected at that point to be 110 miles per hour. Obviously, we can't be certain about that, but it could be a problem for the Mariana Islands as it moves towards the northwest. Chuck, not as much as Pohnpei, but we may see some inclement conditions on Chuck as well in Micronesia too. Michael, have you got anything to say about that?
I was just posting something on the YouTube page.
Yeah. So that's Dolphin. It has been named. So those are the 3 storms we have active. Any questions on those? Any comments? If you want any personalised forecasts for any particular places that are in the path of a storm, I'll do my best to honour that.
Oh, yeah, Nathan.
Hmm.
Looking at like the names for this year and also forecast, what do you think is going to happen in the Atlantic?
Sorry, what was that?
What do you think is going to happen in the Atlantic?
In terms of what? I missed the start.
Like, what do you think is going to happen in the
You mean this
Atlantic
year in
season?
general?
Yeah, like this year.
It's a tough one, but I think it's going to be another, I mean, compared to what we're used to, a fairly quiet season. You know, where, yeah, Devon's just said pretty much the same thing. You know, in the past 10 years, we've been used to quite a lot of tropical storms forming throughout the year, but I don't think we'll see as many this year. Maybe, I think we'll see at least a couple more than we saw last year, though. Devon has also put his other prediction on the side as well in text. He's saying 11 to 13 tropical storms, 2 to 4 hurricanes, and 1 major. That's what he's saying.
I think I've got a forecast on my website as well. At the moment, I'm saying around about probably 9 to 11 named storms, possibly 3 to 6 hurricanes, and maybe 0 to 3 major hurricanes.
0 to 3.
Hmm.
I'm trying to zoom in on here. So it can be 0, 1, 2, or 3. That's quite a difference, Mike.
I think we might have
Go
at
on.
least 1 major hurricane.
I think it's very possible. I think we might see 2. Now, let me just point out the latest imagery of Typhoon here. Now, I've not seen earlier images. I'll try and get them loaded. Oh, here we are, going back in time a few frames here.
Though, Nathan,
Yeah.
it could, I'm not saying that it will, but it could. At the moment, it is following traits of 2012. It is following some traits. A little bit
Just the fact that
earlier,
one
but it is
subtropical
following.
storm was formed early, right?
Well, we did have there was 2 subtropical storms in May of 2012, with Tropical Storm Alberto forming on May 19th.
And by the way, guys,
forming as
watching at home, just in case you didn't know, there's a rather spooky coincidence with Anna, because it's the earliest storm to form in the Atlantic since 2003, when Tropical Storm Anna formed. Or subtropical, wasn't it?
Yeah, actually, yeah, I might look at that. Also, back to 2009 as well. I believe that was a little bit of an earlier start. I don't know, though Anna was in August, but the season did actually start in May with Tropical Depression 1.
Alright, let me first of all show everyone what's been going on in the latest frames with Noul. You can see how it's been progressing towards the Philippines in these latest frames, and I'm just looking towards that eye wall towards the northern side. It appears to be less strong than it used to be. You can see the bit in particular that I'm interested in is the area around here, which is showing the least amount of dark areas towards the top end of that spectrum there. And it looks like the northwestern quadrant of the eye wall might be weakening.
Hey, Nathan.
I mean, someone mentioned that earlier. I can't remember who. It might have been Devon, but you can certainly see it quite clearly there. It has appeared to have weakened slightly.
So you're looking. I've just gone back to look at the 2003 Atlantic season as well. It was actually fairly early, wasn't it, Anna?
It was April, wasn't it?
April 20th to April 24th.
Yeah.
And it affected, actually, looking at it, that could have affected around about the same area.
It stayed out to sea, didn't it?
I don't know. Well, it had 2 direct deaths and affected Florida, Bermuda, the Azores, and the British Isles.
Well, the storm doesn't have to stay out. Storm doesn't have to make landfall to kill people, you know.
True. Though it does say, it says land areas affected. Was kind of the same area as current Anna is affecting. And also,
Yeah.
I think we could actually be in for a fairly interesting season.
All right then. Thanks for your analysis, Michael. We must get back to looking at the Western Pacific though, because we have 2 storms active there. You're not missing much on Anna. There are tropical storm warnings are in effect, we must reiterate, for South Sante River to Cape Lookout. You're looking at the Western Pacific right now. You can see Noul there on Jason's imagery. You can see a bit of a animation going on with it there. You can also see on my screen here both storms and how they're looking as of not too long ago, just over an hour ago. This is what it looked like. No visible imagery, it's still dark over there. But you can see, and actually, it's interesting to note that Dolphin is probably bigger than Noul now, isn't it?
Yeah.
But then again, it's always been pretty large, hasn't it? Since we first saw it, I mean, some people have been rather excited about it and how it might become a rather big storm, not only in size but in intensity. But hasn't quite got there yet. But then again, the larger the system, typically, the slower it is to develop. Now let me see some comments. Jasper Hamlin says 7W has very strong thunderstorms. They're pretty compact, but it seems to not get a spin on the system. That's why it's slow developing. Martina Tillian says that their predictions for this year's season in the Atlantic, I'm guessing, 4 to 9 named storms. Imagine that, having only 4 storms. 1 to 3 hurricanes and 0 to 2 major hurricanes. Probably expected to change sooner or later.
We've also got comments from me below.
Yeah, lots of Force 15 comments coming from Michael.
You know, it's
Very,
just
very
saying.
creative name, you know.
Yeah. No, I kind of like the ring to it.
Right.
That?
Yeah.
I thought
I
when I
quite
saw
like
you, I thought.
the ring to Force 13, you know. Yeah. Oh, Michael's got something going on in the background now. Anyway,
Be right back.
Yeah, be right back, Mike. I'll turn his mic down whilst he runs away. What you're looking at right now, that's the Western Pacific. Let me go back to the Atlantic. We'll probably have some visible imagery, actually. Let's take a look at Anna. So it is still 60 miles per hour. The air pressure has gone from around, it was 998 not so long ago, and it's gone up to 1001 millibars, so it's weakened. And there you can see the latest image on Navy. Jason has another image up there as well. You can see the storm there, I think, yes. And I think on that map, is that all the counties there in the Carolinas? I reckon so. And you can see how the main part of the storm, the thunderstorms, the heavy rainfall in the center is still well offshore. Some cloud around the area, South and North Carolina, probably delivering small amounts of rainfall here and there. The main course is on the way. To reiterate, tropical storm watches in effect from Edisto Beach, South Carolina, to South Sante River, not far from Charleston. And tropical storm warnings in effect from South Sante River to Cape Lookout, which is halfway along North Carolina, really, isn't it? And there you can see where it is in perspective on the NHC tracking map there. Is Michael back?
Yeah, I'm back.
Welcome back, Michael. You're upside down, did you know?
Wait, what?
You're hanging from the ceiling, Michael.
Don't know what happened there.
Always a professional is Michael. That's outrageous.
What the hell?
That's outrageous. Anyway, there's Anna. Actually, the yellow areas there on Devon's screen, you can see the dry air, which is attempting to infiltrate the storm at every turn. And wind shear may have more of an impact on the storm very soon as well. I expect that, well, you can see a big burst in those last few frames. I speculate that may be the last real burst that this storm will be producing on its way to weakening. Let's see what Jean's looking at. You can see the Earth map. There it is. Showing where Typhoon Noul is right now, and I'm sure he'll run us through the forecast on what it shows on the wind map. So you can also see Dolphin way off towards the bottom right of your screen there as well. And there it is. So that's 1 day from now. So that's going to be 24 hours from now. You can see how it's just along the coast of Cagayan province in the Philippines there. And then moving further north, obviously much weaker by this point, probably Category 1 by the time it makes its closest approach to Taiwan. And then the southern Japanese islands, Yaeyama, Miyako, and then towards Okinawa and Amami Islands, and Daita Islands as well, the very small islands towards the east. And then you can see there's pretty much nothing left of it by the time it passes Tokyo. Further south, you can see Dolphin. By the looks of things, it hasn't intensified much on that forecast there. Probably still a tropical storm. And then I think that's as far as it goes, is it, John? Devon says is writing. Yes, on the Dvorak image there, if I can even say it. Well, there you can see it. And Devon, I suppose you can sort of see that little bit of a slight weakening trend on the northwestern side of the storm as well, maybe. Obviously, it'd be welcome news for those in Luzon, because that would be the first place you'd want to see any weakening. It's just interesting to see. I guess the next few hours will really tell the story whether it's actually on a weakening trend or not. We'd certainly hope so for those in the Philippines. Let me take a look at any more comments. Alan Poggy says, possible track for Dolphin. Yes, I showed it on the JTWC page not so long ago. I'll show it again. Here's what JTWC say about the storm in the next 5 days. So you can see how it's going to move, they say, in between Pohnpei and Ujailang in Micronesia, and then move north of Chuuk and then head towards Guam. And that's... I'd be pretty concerned if I was on Guam personally. Looking at that track forecast, it could quite possibly affect the area as a Category 2
Nathan.
typhoon. That's what the current forecast is speculating anyway, Mike.
I'm just going off of like that area for a bit. I'm looking at the UK on Earth Noul score at the moment.
Oh yeah.
Looks as
Of all
though
places.
looks as though that there could be quite a strong, potent extratropical cyclone coming into the UK. Looks as though there could be two there that are quite interacting with each other.
Right. A Fujiwara extratropical version, huh?
I think it could be, actually. I think they're interacting with each other.
Right. Jason.
Either that, or it could just have two areas centers of circulation.
Jason's showing an interesting map showing what the population density is per kilometre squared, is that? And as far as I read it there, it's affecting, I mean, along the coast there, it's lower population, but when you enter that Cagayan Valley, which is towards the northwestern part where those darker areas are, that's where there's more of a population further inland rather than on the coast. So I would expect that the main worries for those in the Philippines, winds will be pretty bad. That's one thing, but especially if the Cagayan Valley, I mean, the storm may move more north than it is west. So that means that that whole valley area may see very strong conditions and all of the eye wall, I suppose, as it moves through that valley. Which would obviously deliver a heavy rainfall, probably some flooding problems, especially around those mountainous areas too. So that would be a bit of a concern for me. Obviously, I'm not fully aware of what the main problems usually are around that place, but that's what I'd expect anyway.
Well, I'm just also looking at the map now. I've zoomed in on the Philippines at the moment.
Hmm.
The Philippines are not getting the like the really strong winds yet.
No, that's to be
Um,
expected because the storm is still just about offshore. Some of the spiral bands affecting the area, but the main part of the storm is still a few hours away.
yeah, it's currently the bit that's closest to the storm is only experiencing winds of 34 kilometers an hour.
Hmm.
That's currently at 16.95 degrees north, 122.46 degrees east,
All right,
which is one of the I forgot what that island's called. It's one with Manila on it.
Luzon.
Luzon, that's it. um, yeah, so that's kind of halfway up Luzon on the the eastern coast of Luzon.
Mhm.
I think a little bit further down is experiencing 35.
Yeah.
Though when you're starting to get into hurricane force, it is not that far off of the not that far off of
Off what?
uh, it's not that far off of
Come on, Mike.
it's not that far offshore.
Right. Okay. Good.
Lost my train of thought there.
Glad we heard the end of your sentence. So you can see the JTWC map. Let me reiterate. The storm currently has winds of 130 miles per hour, 130. That's around 205 kilometers per hour. It has gusts at the moment to 140 knots. That's 160 miles an hour. Category 5 gusts, which is, what is it, 250 kilometers per hour, something like that, maybe more. And is likely to make landfall at around this current intensity we'd expect. And we don't know exactly where it will make landfall anymore. We initially thought it would be Isabella, but looking at this, it may end up being further north in Cagayan province, or perhaps just about staying offshore. But nonetheless, whatever happens, I think we've gone too far now to not see a significant impact along the northeastern tip of Luzon. And then the storm's expected to move towards the north and could still be a typhoon, will probably still be a typhoon by the time it passes close to Okinawa and beyond in the Japanese Ryukyu Islands. You can see on the right-hand side some of the places that it will be passing close to. Taipei, 196 miles, Kadena Air Base, 33 miles, other locations there as well, including Narita Airport in Tokyo, 71 nautical miles by the time it makes its closest approach as a transitioning tropical storm. So that the whole area around there may experience tropical storm conditions, including Taiwan as well.
And Nathan, if can you put it onto my screen for a sec?
First of all, I'd like to take a look at the Wilmington, North Carolina radar provided by Devon. You can see one of the outer edges of the storm there. Is that like a spiral band there or something? Just some rainfall occurring in North Carolina more than anywhere else. And you can see, of course, offshore, you can see the thunderstorms associated with the storm. And where his mouse is, do you think that's where the center of the circulation is, Devon? Probably somewhere near there, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, what's if Stephen P. Shaw says, Michael, you do have a habit of taking us down rabbit holes?
He
What the
does.
hell does that mean? I actually don't know what the hell that means.
I'll tell you about it after the show, Mike. I mean, Michael's got the Earth map up. Jean also has the Earth map up as well. It's a rather popular tool here. Oh, Jean's showing Anna there. That's rather interesting. But Michael, show us what you're going to show us.
So yeah, I'm looking at the Noul school at the moment. If you can see where the little green circle is there, Nathan.
Yeah.
That is currently the strongest part of the storm. Currently with winds of 153 knots, I believe. Not knots, kilometers an hour. But if looking at the other parts, just if you can see.
I expect it to be more than that, though, really.
Yeah. I can't get it directly onto the center because you have to do it by eye and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And also, yes, if you can see here, parts of the strongest part of the storm are just offshore, as you can see here, and quite a lot of surface wind coming up from the south, which is quite warm air, wouldn't it? Which could be fueling the storm.
Perhaps. I mean, the biggest fuel for the storm, I suppose, is the warm sea surface temperatures. I'll also show you the wind shear and all that shortly as well. Let me just reiterate the warnings first of all. Signal 3 warnings in effect for Cagayan, Isabella, and Northern Aurora in Luzon, those provinces. Signal 3 warnings, you can see the impacts on the right-hand side. Heavy damage to high-risk structures, moderate damage to medium-risk structures, light damage to low-risk structures. Increasing damage to old dilapidated residential structures and houses of light materials. Majority of all Nipa and Kogon houses may be unroofed or destroyed, and several other criteria there as well. And they say ocean wave height, open sea 14 meters. Signal 2 warnings in effect for all of those areas as well. Calayan and Babayan group of islands, Apayao, Kalinga, Mountain Province, Nueva Vizcaya, Ifugao, rest of Aurora, and Crevino, and Signal 1 warnings in effect for all of those other areas as well, mainly parts of Luzon, including Quezon and Polillo Island, which was under a higher warning not so long ago, as far as I know, as was Catanduanes, but the storm has passed that area now. Michael, what are you doing? You're watching yourself.
And
What are you doing? Watching yourself?
it's the live vent page.
Yeah, you're watching us when you're supposed to be being us, Mike. Come on.
I'm just bored. No,
well, tell us something.
I'm bored.
Right. Alan Pogge says, if it hits Guam as a Category 2 typhoon, if ever, and I hope not, isn't it more likely that a strong typhoon moves poleward and it won't hit the Philippines? I'm not sure whether you're referring to a hypothetical storm or an actual, or Dolphin or Noul there. But,
Alright, Nathan.
yeah, go on, Mike.
I'm looking. Oh, yeah. No, it's, wait, what the hell?
I mean, I think he's on about...
What is that?
What?
Is that Anna?
Strong typhoons moving poleward. Let me just respond to
Nathan.
first. Hold on,
Is
Mike.
Is that Anna?
Yeah, it is. Strong storms moving poleward. Now, of course, Noul is a strong storm. Now, generally, they are more likely to move polewards, but quite often, they, especially around this area, that they can often stay further south. I mean, we saw with storms like Haiyan and Bopa affecting such areas further south in the Philippines, and quite often it depends where they actually form, doesn't it? But in the terms of Dolphin, I would expect that would curve much sooner than the Philippines. And I mean, you saw just about on the actual tracking map for, sorry, I clicked the wrong one, for Dolphin. You can just about see it starting to curve a little bit further towards the northwest before it reaches Guam. Now, with no idea. Whoa, noise in the background. Now, with no idea what the intensity will actually be by the time it reaches Guam, but it could be fairly strong. It could be Category 2, it could be weaker, it could even be stronger. And if it is stronger, I would expect it would be more likely to curve towards the north. But you can see there it already is beginning to curve, and I would expect that it would continue that not long after Guam, and then head towards maybe the Japanese islands as it curves towards the north. I would say that Dolphin will not be a threat to the Philippines. Hopefully I won't be wrong in that. Michael?
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
Michael's forgot. Daniel, do you have anything to say? He's just joined us. I'm not sure he does. Okay, well, let me show you what all the storms look like right now. You can see this is the latest image on Noul. Wind speeds 130 miles per hour, 130. That's around 205 kilometers per hour. Air pressures 937 millibars. Position 15.4 degrees north, 124.5 degrees east. In layman's terms, just what is it? About 100 miles, maybe less than that, off the coast of Luzon, and closing in as we speak. We also have, of course, Dolphin, 45 miles per hour, around 993 millibars. Now you can see tropical storm warnings in effect for Cosray. Now that's this a tiny island here, just to the east of the center of the storm. And you can also see the larger island of Pohnpei there as well. What warning did we have in effect for Pohnpei? Let me find out. Let me reiterate the warnings in effect for these areas. Tropical storm warning in effect for Causeway, that's the one I just mentioned. Tropical storm warning in effect for Pingilat and Noul in Pohnpei State. I expect that there's some of the small islands close to the bigger island there. And a typhoon watch in effect for Pohnpei itself and Pakin in Pohnpei State. And a tropical storm watch in effect for Sapwafik in Pohnpei State. I'm expecting that's further towards the west, so let me try and deduce which one's which. But there's the main island of Pohnpei. That's under a typhoon watch. I expect that these small islands here are the ones they're referring to under tropical storm warnings. I'm not familiar with the area, unfortunately. So the whole area, though, is likely to see tropical storm conditions. I expect Pohnpei will have a tropical storm warning, if not already. Typhoon watch already in effect, maybe a typhoon warning by the time it reaches that area, and could be a typhoon by the time it passes. That's not yet on the forecast, but it is a possibility. And of course, Guam and the Mariana Islands later on. This is what Anna looks like. Tropical storm warnings in effect for parts of North Carolina and South Carolina from South Sante River to Cape Lookout, including all points in between. Tropical storm watches in effect for Edisto Beach, South Carolina to South Sante River also. And we did have Invest 94W. I'm not sure whether that's still with us or not. That is current, isn't it? Doesn't appear to be much left of it though. Jason actually has some radar of the Philippines. Now, this is interesting. You can see the outer edges of the storm delivering rainfall to the east coast there. And of course, likely to move towards the northern part of that area in the next 12 hours or so. You can find that on, I've seen it before, I found it through Pagasa, but it's on DOST, isn't it, DRST. Daniel, nice of you to join us. What are you doing?
Hello.
Hi. Have you got anything to say?
No, not really.
Oh, great. I was just giving you the opportunity, that's all. It's a crazy
Sorry.
show, isn't it? John also shows us what the track map looks like. Now, the pink area is Category 4. The red area, Category 3. Is it Category 3 or Cat 2? Cat 3. And the orange area, Category 2. So that's rather interesting. That's saying that it's going to be a Category 2 by the time it moves past Ryukyu Islands. I'm not seeing it being that strong yet, but you never know. But we're certainly expecting it to be a typhoon by the time it passes those islands, and then moving towards the northeast near Japan, where it will eventually dissipate after 4 days from now, or somewhere around there. Any questions for us? We'll have them answered. Let's take a look. Not really anything to be said on there. To reply to, that is. What should we look at next? Jason is showing us more radar, is he not? Yes. Difficult to see there. Signal 3 warnings in effect in the Philippines, and that is for Cagayan, Isabela, and Northern Aurora. The landfall area is expected to be in either Isabela or in Cagayan, and it appears to be trending northwards. How are you today, Daniel?
I'm alright.
Just making conversation whilst I load up something else. Here's the wind shear map, which we've not seen yet. This is what it looks like in the West Pacific. You can see Typhoon Noul in near zero wind shear by the looks of things, and pretty low around the storm as well. All the way to Taiwan by the looks of things. Fairly low amounts of wind shear and decreasing as well. So it may get a pretty easy ride further north, at least for a while. You can also see where Dolphin is. That's marked out with the tropical storm.
Hello!
Icon. Michael, damage our ears.
Hello!
No thanks, Mike.
Shut up.
And you can also see Tropical Storm Dolphin there in a fairly low amount of wind shear, but increasing or higher amounts towards the left-hand side of the storm near those islands of Pohnpei and Chuuk. So that's what it looks like with that. Let's take a look at the Atlantic whilst we're at it, where you can see Anna. So there's Anna in an area of increasing wind shear around the storm. So that's obviously bad news for Anna, but it's just off the coast and it's probably going to weaken significantly soon. If not soon, then by the time it makes landfall, it will certainly begin weakening a lot and then move towards the northeast. That's what Anna looks like. What else should we take a look at? Any idea, Mike? Maybe not. Sea surface temperatures might be a good idea. I'm just loading at the sea surface temperatures right now, and this is interesting. So this is what it looks like in the Atlantic, where you can see 26-degree waters for a little area around where Anna is, but I think where Anna's center of circulation is, it's somewhere around here, so not quite warm enough for a storm with tropical characteristics you'd expect. And I expect that will lead to weakening very, very soon. I don't think it's really sustainable for it to keep going at its current intensity as a tropical storm for much longer. Rest of the Atlantic's looking pretty warm further south near the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico, Daniel.
It's starting to warm up now, isn't it?
Yes, it certainly is. It certainly is. The East Pacific's very warm, as it quite often is at this time of year. 30 degrees plus. If a first storm forms there, it could be could have a good time. Mike.
Be right back. I've just got to go do something.
Excellent. Have fun. Now here's the North Indian Ocean. You can see it's rather warm here, 30 degrees or more, 32 perhaps in one or two spots in the Bay of Bengal. And looking at the West Pacific, that's where Noul is right now. So around here, you can see a little bit of cooler sea surface temperatures because Noul's been in the area and been churning up all that warm water from the surface. But still warm near the coast, 30 degrees plus along the eastern coast of Luzon. Where Dolphin is right now, where is it? Somewhere around here where my cursor is hovering. And you can see it there. Very warm waters around that area as well, around 29 degrees C, so certainly warm enough for development. Now, as far as moving north for Noul, you can see 26-degree temperatures is basically what's required for development and whatnot. But you can see it extending as far as the southernmost Japanese islands, the northern tip of Taiwan, but not quite as far as Okinawa and beyond. So we'll see how that goes as time goes on.
I accidentally pushed the red X.
You did what?
I went off. I accidentally pressed the red X.
Great. Michael's such a professional, isn't he?
I am.
Stephen P. Shaw, by the way, is your favourite fan, Michael. He's your biggest fan.
I've got a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is there any specific reason why it's called Dolphin and not anything else like fish or shark or?
It's what the World Meteorological Organization want to choose, isn't it?
So they just chose Dolphin.
Yeah, they just called it Dolphin. We had a dolphin. Was it 2008? Was it? I think.
Oh.
What category was it?
I think it was a category 2, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh.
Certainly a typhoon.
I know there's been a Typhoon Dog.
Yeah, no, hurricane dog.
Oh, Hurricane Dog.
And that wasn't really anything. That was just because they're using the
Nathan.
alphabet. Michael.
Oh.
You are correct.
Good. I usually am.
Yeah.
Dean Land says hello. Hi. Alan Poggy says, as of this time, what is the category of Noul? In some forms, it's a category 5 now. Let me let me reiterate what's going on with Noul. It's a Category 4 storm on the Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale. It's got winds of 130 miles per hour. It's 205 kilometers per hour. It does have wind gusts of 160 miles per hour. That's just the gusts. If it was sustained winds, that would be a Category 5, but it is only 130 miles per hour sustained winds, which means that Noul is a Category 4 storm. Yeah. Radio silence. I can't speak for 1 hour without Lent, believe it or not.
Pardon?
I can't speak for 1 hour straight without someone else talking. You know that?
Oh yeah, alright.
Yeah.
How many storms are active at the moment? Because I haven't really been tracking.
Well, 3.5, I guess.
Oh.
There's 3 tropical cyclones active, with one in best 94W.
I don't think much will come of 94W anymore. I wonder whether that might be because of Dolphin.
Yeah.
Now, Jason, I wonder whether Jason could tell us, is it just me, or does the eye look bigger than it did before on Noul? It just appears that it might be larger, but you can certainly see on that there that the southeastern side of the eye wall is much stronger than the northwestern side, and that is, I mean, the best of the bad news, I suppose, because the northwestern side will of course be the part that's impacting Luzon first. It does appear to be the weakest side. It's still looking fairly strong, and expect bad conditions occurring on the Philippines in a matter of hours.
Well, that was a real eye-opener of a question.
Daniel. Outrageous puns. Oh, Jason would like me to click the link for the animation, but it's an error apparently, Jason.
Oh dear.
Yeah, Jason confirms what I thought. The eye is expanding. I'm just going to try and go back in time with these images here and see if we can try and put something together. Actually, let me just pull up the floaters. That's probably going to be easier. Not quite as high quality, but...
It's not poo.
Oh, shut up.
Not quite as high quality, but let's just load it up. The latest... let's load up the rainbow, first of all. See what it's a bit like Jason's, actually. His has a bit of a rainbow. If it actually loads. It's just waiting. Oh, there it is. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Last few frames, you can certainly tell quite easily the expansion of that eye. Look at that. So the perhaps slight deterioration of the eye wall on the northwestern side. Certainly in relation to the southeastern side anyway. And you can see in those last few frames how it's been drawing nearer and nearer to the Philippines, to Luzon, and landfall expected, or closest approach expected, in the next 12 hours or so. In the meantime, we're coming up to the end of the show. So is there anything that anyone on here would like to say before we finish?
Not really.
Well, why did you come on the show, Daniel? If you didn't have anything.
Participation.
Yeah. Participation.
Yeah. And see if I could learn anything new.
Oh, wait, yeah. I mean, we're always here to learn.
Well, if you don't want me on, I won't come on next time.
I didn't say I didn't want you to come on. I'm just very intrigued as to your reasoning.
Oh.
Jason's loaded up something now.
Could I just talk about the... I don't know... Is it worth talking about the wiki? Because it hasn't been updated in ages.
It's not for me to say, to be honest, because I don't do the wiki. You can see Jason showing the visible imagery of how the storm looked like during the day. Obviously, it's nighttime in the Philippines now. You see how it's progressed as night fell. This is the latest imagery from NOAA. And let me just see if I can get the better quality. Who's having dinner?
Michael, probably.
We can hear it, Mike.
Zoz.
You're welcome. Maybe we'll turn Mike's mic down a bit. I mean, it's not good manners to talk with your mouth full anyway. So.
Oh, Michael.
What?
Oh,
Did he say something? I've turned him down, so we won't be hearing
good.
it. Now, you can see how. Let's see. This is how the storm progressed. You can certainly see how the eye has expanded in those last few frames in particular. That's over around an hour period. But also how the northwestern side of the eye wall. Actually, I think it's resurged in that last frame there. It's just come back a bit, hasn't it? Towards the very centre of the storm, it's come back a bit. But there we are. That's the current situation with all the storms. I'd like to thank everyone on the panel this evening. Jean, first of all, joining us from Mauritius, showing us some nice screen shares. Thanks for joining us once more. Daniel, nice of you to join us this evening.
Oh, goodbye.
Oh, goodbye. Jason has been invaluable with his imagery as well. I'm not sure if we can still see that at the moment. As well as Michael as well.
Pardon me.
Yeah.
Sorry. You know, do you think you could link me for that thing?
If you could think of one word to describe Michael, it would probably be that. And myself, Nathan Foy from Force 13, that's us saying goodbye. But first of all, Mike, what?
Bye, guys.
Great. We're going to be producing more updates later on this evening. Follow our Facebook and Twitter feed. Force 13 is the place on there. We now have 4 active editors on the Facebook page, so we've been really going at the updates recently. We've been pretty heavy on them, haven't we?
Yeah.
How's the website doing?
24 hours a day almost. And the website is hopefully on its way. The new website, force-13.com, is where you can see the current one in situ. Waniel, what's so funny now?
Nothing. Right.
Thank you. He just turned serious in a flick of a switch, didn't he?
Yeah.
And of course, our next videos, of course, we'll be doing more updates on Noul. That'll probably be through the night tonight on the YouTube page. You know where we are. Stay tuned for our next videos. The next one will probably arrive late tonight around 2 AM UTC on Noul. Until then, that's all from us for now, and we'll see you again soon. Goodbye.